Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Regenerative Business. This is your host, Sam Garcia, as expected. And today I have a lovely guest, the Money Witch, Jessie Susannah Karnatz. And if you do not know Jessie, she brings capitalism-critical, shame-free education to healers, hustlers, and creatives in order to catalyze change in their financial lives. She believes healing our finances will bring blessing to our lives, our lineages, and our communities. She offers education, money magic products, and intuitive financial coaching online and in the Bay Area, unceded oh-low-nee land, and does it all with impeccable business lady style. If you can see her on video, then we know impeccable business lady style is checked. She's also the cult leader at Money Coven, an online web of magical beings who are healing their relationship with money, showing up for their financial self-care, and becoming powerful stewards to their resources. And the reason why I invited Jessie Susannah on today is because she did some lives on war tax resistance. And I was just like, oh, fuck, I have not heard many people talk about this or at all, to be honest. And it was just really cool to have not only someone who works in the financial space, but also a fellow witch to be talking about war tax resistance. And I was blown away by your lives because I don't know anything about this until I watched them. And I just want to dive in, and also the potential shadowy things that might be going on in our own lives that might they make us think that war tax resistance is different than it is, and make sure we're doing things correctly if we actually want to do this. So welcome.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. So just to jump straight in, can we talk about how war tax resistance, first of all, just what even is this thing?
Sure. And I want to preface by saying there are several institutions, groups, Instagram accounts, websites, not a lot, maybe between 5 and 10, that we're like, this is all they do. They educate about this topic, they facilitate, they advocate for. And so if you want to deep dive into the resources of it, those are available and should be pretty easily findable just by a web search. This started attracting me because I teach about taxes. I'm a former tax preparer. I did taxes for 10 years for, like it says in my bio, healers, hustlers, and creatives. And I know a lot about how people engage with the idea of taxes, how people like us engage with the idea of taxes. And so I started seeing a lot of bubbling in my corner of the internet about war tax resistance. And what became clear to me outside of the accounts that are like actually educating on the topic is like people feel passionately about it, but they don't really understand it at all. And partly that's because people don't understand taxes. So in order to understand how to do something, you have to understand the framework. Although I have an Aquarius moon, so maybe more me than other people would be the context. But I'm like, I want people to understand anything like bookkeeping, taxes, budgeting. I'm always like, understand what it is, why we're doing it, so you can build a relationship from that place rather than building a relationship from the place of just having some kind of like third-hand traumatized rumor idea of what it is.
Do you want to go into explaining taxes then?
Dev, it's new. Yeah. The way that taxes works, just very basically, this is an extremely stripped down version. So if you are employed, let me actually back up and say this. U.S. tax law requires that every taxpayer be paid on like how much taxes they owe basically as of any given day. This idea that we have, at the end of the year, we owe the taxes for the whole year before, that's not exactly true. We owe taxes on everything we've earned so far in the year. And that's why if you are an employee and you get a paycheck, that's why your employer is obligated to withhold federal income tax and state income tax from your wages. And that's why if you're self-employed, you are required to make quarterly estimated tax payments. So we're paying in all year. And if you're employed, let me just say that, and then we can get to the resistance part. But so that's basically true. So if you're filing as an employee, you have already had a substantial amount of money taken out of your paycheck. And when you file and you get a refund, that's generally money you've already paid in that's being returned to you. Like you paid too much. There might be some additional, let's just say you paid too much, so you're getting back some of that money. If you're self-employed, same. If you paid too much, you'll get some back. And if you owe more, which self-employed people often do, then you pay a little bit more. Let me just leave it at that for now.
Taxes, yay. Our favorite thing. And for context, everyone who's listening in is self-employed or is a business owner, and many are neurodivergent. Most all of them would consider themselves creatives. Most all of them are online business owners. So like right in the field of people. And unless that like they also have a side hustle, they're transitioning. They probably don't have W-2s. And so then war tax resistance is this idea of not paying the taxes that you filed for because you don't want that money going towards the wars that the US, whatever country you're in, but the US is funding.
Like the percentage of, there's different ways to do it, right? So a large percentage of the federal budget is to some extent paying for military-related expenses. I think this year
that's public knowledge, right?
43%, something like that. And that when I looked at the breakdown, I want to say maybe about 20-something% of that was for current military and about 20% was for past military. So I'm assuming that's like VA benefits, et cetera, lawsuits, I'm sure. And I don't actually know what else that goes into, if that's like debt or what, I don't know, but it's approximately 43%. So the idea is I don't want to be funding the federal government. And I do think there's like a hyper idealized sentiment that's if we don't give them money, they won't have any money and they can't do anything. And I don't think that's true per se necessarily, but just because there's a certain amount of federal spending that is just printing money or debt. The amount of money that the federal government spends on top of what it gets in taxes is phenomenal, a large number that mortals like us can only vaguely comprehend like what kind of number we're dealing with.
Channel that number in meditation.
I know. I think when you start thinking about, even thinking about a billion, it's like we think of, million, and then a billion is just like one bigger than a million. You know what I mean? But I feel like I started seeing, there was some statement or breakdown at some point. Because when people are talking about, there's no such thing as an ethical billionaire, and then trying to distinguish how much more a billion is than a million. Anyway, it's quite a bit larger. And then I think when we start thinking about like trillion, I don't even think we can really comprehend like what kind of number that is. But that's the idea. The idea is that I think some people feel like it's a practical move. Like, I'm not going to give you money to do this.
Yeah.
And some people feel like it's more an act of political resistance. And it's just such a base function of an empire, right? Like, it's like the empire collects their taxes and then they these things with it. So it's a very kind of, I don't know, almost like old school move in terms of resistance, if you think about it. It's very like Roman Empire, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
What I loved so much about what you were talking about on Instagram was like, okay, so you decide that you want to do war tax resistance. Okay, you realize that this is actually, you have to do your taxes. This isn't an out. You have to do your taxes. You have to file your taxes, and then you just don't pay them. But not only that, you also have to set in very specific forms and very specific documentation, letting them know that this is war tax resistance, or else you're just like one of millions of people who aren't filing for, or not filing.
Yeah, exactly. And there's different, like when you go deep in the war tax resistance movement, there are different methods of doing it. And one of them is to not say anything and just try to slide under the radar. For me personally, and just my personal opinion, and I'm a big do whatever you want. If you have a different opinion or you're thinking of something maybe I'm not thinking about, great, do that, or tell me, write me an email, whatever. But I do not think, certainly not this year, and it would take a massive amount of organizing to have actual financial impact on the federal government.
Yeah.
That's definitely not happening for this year of taxes.
Yeah.
I am not even sure I think it would have that large of a financial impact if even everyone who was talking about it like solidly organized to not pay taxes. So I really think that the kind of like saying something, like declaring this is what I'm doing, is where the impact is. So to me, but then that definitely means filing extra documents, not forms that are available from the federal government, obviously. It's not just like, I'll get IRS form.
IRS form 999. The war tax resistance form.
So you have to write a letter, or some of the war tax groups have created their own documents. Oh, fill out this form and send it. And you have to send it by paper, which most people in this day and age know how to do very little by paper. Even the last 10 years, people have lost a lot of skill set around doing things by paper, especially like forms and all that. But yeah, you have to file by paper, which means not e-filing. And you have to have a plan.
Yeah.
Like you have to have a plan. And I would say you both have to have a short-term plan and you need to have a long-term plan. So the short-term plan is like, how are you filing? And there's a bunch of different decisions you could make, because what we said, where you file and you declare it and then you don't pay, there's actually much more nuanced decisions that you could make, or that people do make. So you could file and pay and send a loan. A protest letter, essentially, that my money is going to pay for this. You could file your taxes and pay less. You can take out the percentage that's for military and to say, like, I'm only paying whatever, 57% of my taxes because XYZ. You could decide you're not going to pay at all. For this year, you already paid estimated tax payments, like hopefully. And if you didn't, please get in the Money Coven, because I would love to help you be making quarterly payments if you're going to make payments at all. But yeah, you've got to have a plan. So there's all of those things. And then also, okay, are you going to pay state, or you don't want to pay state taxes? Those things are separate. But your state tax return requires your federal tax return to be completed because you need the numbers. Then what? What's your plan, right? So you're going to get a letter from the IRS saying you're going to get a bill. And then you can decide, are you going to pay the bill? Are you not going to pay the bill? Is this a long-term decision for you or not?
Where it's like every single year or not.
I feel like war tax resistance is like a lifestyle. People who have been doing it, a long time. And there are people who do it and it really requires commitment, right? So it's like there's people who do it and they have made commitments to they call it voluntary simplicity, by which like making less than your standard deduction. So like making less than $12,000. But I'm going to say in 2024, making less than $12,000 is not voluntary simplicity. That's voluntary poverty for sure. Right. And
that's why I thought this conversation was so interesting, because I went to an environmental conference in 2017. And there was like this little nook with a bunch of books in it. And I was like, oh, like not funding the military was like this little book. And it was essentially that. It was like, make as little money as possible and then you don't fund the military. And I was like, that's not a solution.
It is a solution that people choose.
Not a solution for me.
Please. But that's the thing, right? Is I'm like, you have to understand how this stuff works to understand. You can't be like, I want to make $100,000 a year and I want to like keep my credit in good shape, which it won't impact your credit score, but it does impact your credit. And I can tell you more about that. And I want to know what? And I want to do war tax resistance. Or like one of the questions I answered on Instagram, people were like, how can I basically uphold the terms of my green card and do war tax resistance? And I'm like, you can't.
Yeah.
There's a lot of circumstances to people's lives. Or can I do war tax resistance and my partner who I'm legally married to doesn't want to do it and they won't get in trouble either? No, you can't do that.
Even if you file separately?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. In a married couple, you're both legally responsible for each other's tax debt.
Classic.
Yeah. Unless there's you can file at a certain point. There's I can't remember the name of the form, but it's essentially like non-whatever spousal, innocent spouse, kind of. But it's like, you're not, it's hard to qualify and you're not going to, no one's going to qualify under these circumstances. And some things are symbolic, right? So if you're like, I'm not going to pay this year or next year or for 5 years or as long as this war is going on, and then when I'll pay it. But then again, with the Aquarius moon, I'm like, I like to do stuff that makes sense. So it's like that's a gesture. In the long run, were you to do that, you actually are going to give the federal government more money because you're going to pay them interest and penalties. So and I'm not saying that couldn't be a thing you chose to do because people have to make their own decisions in terms of things that are like energetic decisions or symbolic or spiritual. And I think there are people who just feel like I cannot fund this.
Yeah.
And I need to like make a sort of energetic and spiritual gesture in that direction right now, which is fine. But I'm like, if you're gonna end up in a lot of debt and if at some point you're gonna be like, oh, I need to just deal with this, I don't know. I'm like, if I didn't pay my taxes if you have a business and you owe a substantial amount of money every year, right? Like in federal income tax, because you're talking about self-employment tax and you're talking about personal income tax. So you could be paying like 30, 35, whatever percent as a self-employed person. So if you're not going to pay your income taxes for 5 years, you could easily end up owing $100,000 or something. And then what are you going to do? So if you're doing that, I would definitely suggest maybe putting the money aside in an account somewhere so that you have it if you want to pay it and you're not like, fuck, now I'm $100,000.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just have I've helped so many people like dig themselves out of financial messes that I'm just like, you guys, I will create a financial mess. So unless you have a really tight plan around it.
I don't know if and maybe this is, go check out the war tax resistance websites and Instagram accounts, but do you know if people are doing lawsuits around this of I'm not paying my taxes and then you get a bill from the IRS and then hiring a tax lawyer and being like, well, this is legitimate for whatever reason?
It's not legitimate. It's not legally legitimate. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's nothing. Yeah, it's not legally legitimate. You're not going to. The question I was getting, I put up a post on my Instagram that was like, what are your questions around war tax resistance? And a bunch of people are like, am I going to jail? And the answer is
yes, no.
No, not under the current paradigm. There's not very many people at all who have ever gone to jail for war tax resistance. And those who has been because basically they were filing fraudulent tax returns, right? Tax returns they were lying on their tax return, which the government doesn't care why you're doing it. It's illegal to lie on your tax return. The government, you don't have the legal right to do it because you're doing it for political purpose. And the same with not paying your taxes. There's very few people, but I don't know. I feel like for the most part, I don't really go down conspiracy theory portals, but I'm gonna say I think it's possible that the way that things are headed politically and economically in the United States, that we might potentially see something that's aligned with debtors' prison, which used to be a huge thing, right? It was very much a thing in different cultures in Europe. And I'm like, do I think that we could see something like that? I would not say it's outside of the realm of possibility. You know what I'm saying? So I would not dig yourself into $200,000 worth of debt to the federal government that I don't have the money set aside for.
I'm sure and maybe I'm lost, but it probably impacts what you're able to do in the future in terms of getting loans and stuff. Because I know we bought land a couple years ago, and when I was in the process of buying the land, it was like, oh, like as a business owner, you're always taught write off as many expenses as you possibly can because you want to pay as little taxes as you can, and that's legal. But we ended up having to like go back and amend taxes, being like, I did make a shit ton of money and I just wrote off a lot, which were like technically allowed, but they weren't like required. So just to be able to purchase the land. So it's like, what decisions are you making now that could impact you doing X, Y, and Z in the future, and like you actually building out the life that you want in the future?
Absolutely. Financial decisions have financial impact. War tax resistance is a financial decision. Could it be a powerful movement? Yes. I don't. And these are economically based systems. So at the end of the day, do economically based solutions, I don't know, warrant a role in the movement? Absolutely. But they do have impact. So yeah, that's a holistic financial move, like what you did. Sometimes people come in and they're like, it's like the only goal is not to pay the least amount of taxes. Like you have to look at what it is that you're trying to do because, right, like maybe you're trying to actually declare more income because you're trying to get a mortgage or even you're trying to like rent and you need to show a certain amount of income, things like that. With this, the tax debt does not impact your credit score like the number, but if you don't pay the bill and you don't make a payment plan, the federal government will put a lien on you, basically, which means, and that is available to anyone who's like pulling credit information about you. So what that says is it's basically like a notice that says we have first dibs and any money that shows up. Like we get paid before any other creditors get paid. And again, if you're trying to get a mortgage or something like that, do they really care that the reason you have a tax lien is because you're engaging in war tax resistance? No, probably they don't care. And it's probably easier to not give you the loan. Does that mean you couldn't ever get a loan? Probably not either. So it's not going to slash your credit, but it is going to impact your financial record, basically.
Yeah. Then one thing that you circled around a lot when I heard you talk about this before was around how a lot of people are like, oh, war tax resistance, that sounds great because I don't want to do my taxes anyways. And it's like this connection to avoidance patterns.
Yeah, I don't even think most people who are having that thought are having it as a conscious thought.
Yeah.
I think that's a subconscious. Resisting my taxes. I love resisting my taxes. You know what I mean? Because a lot of us are already resisting our taxes.
Or we want to like a good girl reason or a good
it's like
to like, oh, I didn't want to do those anyways. Here, I'm doing it because of this reason.
Well, and I do think already a lot of people have resistance for these kinds of reasons, right? There's political threads to why that resistance exists on some sort of level. It's funny because I have a little video in my online course, whatever library, called Taxes as Self-Care. And one of the major points in that video, and this was made, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago. But one of the major points is like using your resistance energy is extremely sacred. Using it on your taxes which is usually happening on a subconscious level. I hate the federal government, so I'm like not going to file my taxes. Using it on your taxes is a waste of energy because you're just creating more mess for yourself. You're often paying more money. You're making taxes take longer. But we start thinking about taxes basically January 2nd. And
End of December, because you're looking at expenses.
if you file in the end of February, it's okay. You had to think about taxes for 2 months. 2 months out of 12 months. That's 1/6 of your year, right? Which is like 1/6 of your adult life. If you don't file them till March, okay, then we're like in 3 months. That's like a quarter of your year. If you don't file them till April, 4 months. If you file an extension and file in October, that means you get like November and half of December off from thinking about taxes. You know what I mean? It's like the resistance actually just makes it take up so much energy and it's draining. Like resistance is tiring. It takes energy. I think about it as like standing like in a river, kind of that feeling of the river like pushing against you the whole time.
Resisting the current.
Yeah. And you're fucking tired at the end of the day. If you have a big day at the ocean or the river, like you're tired. Right. And it takes your energy. And I have often felt like in that, I said, unless you're going to commit to this as a lifestyle. So to me, I feel like war tax resistance is something I wouldn't really fuck around with. You need to really sit down and think about if this is something you're committed to and then make a plan. And I do think it can be something that you do temporarily, like in the ways that we discussed. Like, I'm going to do that this year. I'm going to write the letter. I'm not going to pay the bill until this particular war is over or something like that. And I'm going to put the money aside and this is my plan. But I don't really feel like it's something to like dabble in.
And also to make it super clear, you will still have to file your taxes.
Absolutely have to file your taxes.
You don't actually get out of that.
No, you have to do.
You have more forms to fill out.
You have to do everything you have to do. And you have to do some serious, big girl like planning. Do you know what I mean? And thinking and strategizing like about taxes and about money. And if you're small business, a lot of what taxes is and like in the resistance, it's the bookkeeping and the like getting all the financial statements together. And you definitely need to do that, even if you never had to file taxes. So you're not like, it's not an out. And it's not a way to just not file. I feel 100% sure there will be like many people who don't file or filing like file extensions, think about it all year, don't want to know what they're doing this year. I think there'll be many more people doing that with this kind of like idea of like, I don't want to give the government money right now, which is a fine idea, but it's just, I don't know. It's just not how it works. That's the thing. I'm like, you have to understand how taxes work so that you can understand how this works because that's not how it works. Just like not filing.
So if people are like, okay, I might do war tax resistance, but probably not because I have all of these other goals in my life, but I still don't want to do taxes.
Sorry, babe.
What do you see as this avoidance? What is underneath this avoidance? If there is anything or any millions of
all kinds of stuff, things that we're already talking about for sure. I think people have impacts, just feelings about the government, direct impact in their lineage through just the impacts of colonization, transatlantic slave trade, etc., like of the way that the federal government like has impacted their family and their lineage. All low financial self-esteem, negative self-talk, beating ourselves up when we kind of start doing something. When you're doing your bookkeeping, if you make mistakes and then you're like, have voices in your head that are like, you're fucking this up, you can't do this, you're stupid. Math trauma from childhood, it makes you feel dumb. Just truly not understanding, not having the financial literacy developed to properly really run your business from a financial standpoint. attention issues, like sitting your ass in a chair and getting it done, like carving out the time, dedicating the time to it, accessing the tools, just not having the time and the tools set aside to do it.
So
So
in
many.
addressing this, it's not just about the mindset and the shadow work. It's also about getting support in some capacity, even if it's like a friend of yours sitting down with you and like creating habits and rituals. Would you say that's true?
There's a practical in my work. I say there's the three angles of healing. It's like a little triangle with three. So if you want to heal your finances, you need to be addressing it from three different angles. One is practical, logistical. One is spiritual, emotional. One's magical, energetics. You have to be doing them all. You can't just like go to therapy about why you don't want to do your taxes and never do your taxes. You know what I mean? And you can't just light a candle about be like, I want my tax problems taken care of, but never do the shadow work and never sit down in the chair and figure it out either. So all three of those angles really need attention if you're going to see shift, which I think shift of energy is just like what healing is. I think, yeah, you need it all. But I do think that the shadow work is often the key to unlocking some of the logistical success. I think like some of the ways that financial things specifically feel blocked to us is the direct result of unresolved financial shadow work. So going there first can sometimes, or at least simultaneously, can help us learn how to manage the logistical relationship in a more loving and efficient way, rather than just putting on another coat of colonial willpower ethic, which is like, so prevalent with finances. It's just, didn't do your budget? Like, try again this year and just do it better and harder and don't be so fucking lazy. You know what I mean? And it's so every year we're like, I guess I'll try again, but maybe this time I'll be not so dumb and not so lazy. And I don't think that's going to work. Or it's like even wins that you have under that paradigm are pretty self-injurious and also not generally sustainable. Or it's like, at what price? And with the kind of combination of the resistance and the ADHD stuff, people have way different styles of ADHD, right? For me, I say my brain is like a revolving door where it's like things come and I'm like, oh yeah, that thing. And then I'm just like, I make a lot of effort. If something comes to my mind that's important, I make a lot of effort to capture it in some way, like write it down or whatever.
Same, yeah.
Because I'm like, it will come around again. I don't forget about things. I actually am an extremely thoughtful and conscientious person. But when will that particular thing circle back around? I truly couldn't tell you. I have no control over this. Yeah, I think, but I do also know that the way my brain works combines with like my emotional trauma and those things. And there's things that I keep on a much tighter circuit and things that I'm avoiding, I think, are like on a longer orbit, right? Like they go out
and Saturn.
Yeah, they like back around, Whereas if I'm like anxious about someone texting me back, it circles back in my mind like every fucking
I love that.
seconds, So I think, that combination can really make it where it's just like you legitimately could just forget it is even happening for 3 months. And then you're like, oh, fuck, I have to do this. So I don't know, using all those tools, taking your brain and the way you work seriously, using those tools, that stuff's really important to me. Scheduling money dates is like major. I really advocate for people to make a money date with themselves, even weekly, because you're going to miss them. So if they're weekly and you miss them, it's not a big deal. If you make a money date monthly and you miss a couple, it's like, damn, that was 4 months and I haven't done this at all. And then it's, do I even do that anymore?
Probably not. Is a money date just like looking at money going in, money going out?
Just sitting down and being like, I'm doing money stuff. Like I do money stuff Friday from 10 to 12 and I don't schedule over it. You know what I mean? I don't say, yes, I can take a meeting at that time or whatever. So then at least I'm sitting down and I'm like, oh, what are all the money stuffs that I'm dealing with? Because then you would remember, right? Or maybe you're keeping a little notebook and this is your money date notebook and you take it out and you're like, oh yeah, I'm keeping this ongoing to-do list of all the money things. And it's okay, let me just deal with this thing because I'm here and this is my time that I have carved out to do that. So it's just a container to do it, because with the ADHD and just life, if you don't make time, and I used to see it maybe not like a punishment, but okay, you have to do this thing. I've shifted from you have to do this thing at this time to no, you get to do this thing at this time, because it's like that's the container. And that means you don't have to do anything else. Like you don't also have to whatever. You only have to be with your money. So I don't know.
Are there any like mini tiny first step shadow work practices that people could do to address avoidance or any
avoidance?
I feel like avoidance is like the topic of the day.
Yeah. And so one of the antidotes in my Money Coven, we go through 6 different portals. So I have 6 portals that you like journey through to financial healing. And one of them is I call financial intimacy. And I feel like financial intimacy work, exercises, practice is some of the antidote to avoidance. And that is just getting close with your money, right? So anything that cultivates closeness, and that can be, for some people, that's let me check my bank account balances every day. As long as it's not happening in a compulsive way, because some people check their bank account balances every day in a way that's based on anxiety and scarcity. So that's not what we're talking about, right? But we're talking about really having a pulse on like, how much money do I have? It could be making a spreadsheet that's like all your debt. How much is it? Like, where is it? What's the interest rate? Making sure that you can log into all your accounts, right? That's often the first step. I do a budgeting group called Club Budget within Money Coven. And I have this little zine about budgeting that uses tarot if people are into that. It's called Be the Queen of Pentacles.
Oh, cute. Oh, and you have such a cute online shop too, you guys. She makes physical products. You can buy physical products. I love that.
I love my physical products. Every online business, like my bookkeeping company and the coaches, they're just like, you should cut this part of your business. It's truly not profitable. And I'm like, but I love it the most. Exactly, so I'm going to keep playing it. I don't even care.
I'm going to make it anyway, so I might as well sell it.
Exactly. It does a little bit more than break even. Love it so much. But in that, I'm like, your first step to budgeting is like making sure you can log into all your accounts. And that's, for some people, that's, yeah, duh. But for a lot of people, it's, oh yeah, I've never really sat down and been like, do I actually have access and control to like everything in my financial sphere? So sitting down and, where you're like, oh, I think I know what it is, but it's like, actually you don't. So reset it. Like, do you actually know what it is? So all of those things, if you have accounts, like if you have a old retirement account, a 401k from like a job you used to have 10 years ago or something like that, and you're like, I don't even know where that is or like how to access it, like anything like that, I would say like just something that feels far away in your finances, bring it closer.
You could have money that you don't even realize sitting somewhere.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jessie Susannah. This was so fun. And hopefully people who are interested in war tax resistance feel so much more clear about the lifestyle they're about to jump into, or people who are like, thought it was just avoiding taxes are really clear that it's not.
Or like noticing, just getting the information about, because I don't want to be out here being like, oh, if you do this, you're going to fuck up your life. I do think that there's ways that you can make some choices to do it in a conscientious, intentional way, but the intentionality is the key.
Yeah.
You've got to be doing it with intentionality. And a lot of people have not brought a lot of intentionality to their financial lives. So I'm like, if you're going to do something big financially, make sure you're doing it intentionally, and it is going to call you into a larger sense of intentionality in your entire financial life.
Oh, gross. No, I'm kidding. I love being intentional with money, but I can hear people saying that.
Totally.
So
You
for
can be both, right? Everyone wants to be intentional with their money, but also gross.
the teenage self also does not at
Oh,
all.
yes.
So if people are interested in going deeper with you or learning more from you or just hearing from you at all, where do they go? What do they enter into?
Moneywitch.com has it all. You can get everywhere from there. There's the physical product shop. There's access to Money Coven, which is my I call it my cult because like online membership. It was just like, ugh, so dry. But yeah, it's a group of people.
And you have a book, right? Don't you?
Yeah, I have a book. I was like, a big publisher book, and then I have the self-published Be the Queen of Pentacles. My book is called Money Magic. It has a subtitle that's like very long, and the publisher came up with it. Practical wisdom and empowering rituals to heal your finances. I think that's it. So something like that. It has a really pretty cover. That's how you'll find it.
Or looking
yeah.
up Money Magic.
Money Magic, because there's other books with that title, but I'm like,
Aw.
mine's the pretty one. And it is actually very pretty, and it has a 7-step system to heal your finances that I had developed. But it's every step there's these really beautiful affirmations and like crystals you could work with and the tea you should make. And that to me, I feel like bringing in the politics, bringing in the spirituality, bringing in the aesthetics is a big part of what can make money feel more accessible for people, financial work feel more accessible for people. So that's the goal, is maybe if it's pretty,
We'll say yes to it.
yes, exactly. When I was writing it, I said to my publisher, my kind of like image for what I want to create, and I think this is true across all my work, is I was like, it's like one of those bento boxes where it's like, it looks like a little bunny or something. It's like they make the rice, the tuba bunny. But I was like, I want it to be like equal parts broccoli, candy, and psychedelic mushrooms. So I feel like I really try to bring that to my work. It's like
I'm glad your publisher was receptive.
spoonful of sugar and also the emotional. We're going deep, but we're also going practical. But also you can have a little candy along the way.
So good. Okay, what's your final message to everyone listening?
This is a really important way to love yourself. Yeah. Financial self-love.
Awesome.